New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Brz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert over here.
Rev Z right here.
And we're a couple of ministers talking shit. Happens every Friday morning here on the New Thought Media Network, 7 a.m. Mountain Time. So thank you for being with us. And hey, if you have a second, please do hit that share button. Let some of your friends know what we're doing here and invite some people to come on over and hang out with us. Good morning, Wayne. Good morning, Jamie. Yep, we've got some major shit to talk about today, Jamie. I promise you that. And the first one we're going to start. Well, let's say hi to Linda too. Good, beautiful morning? Question mark. Yes, it's a beautiful morning here, Linda. Thank you. Rained like the dickens overnight, though. Man, I don't know if it was at your house, Z, but up here in my place, it sounded like we had a hurricane dumping on us or something.
If it came my way, my brother, I was out like a light.
Good for you. Good morning, Marianne. Thanks for being with us here this morning as we get ready to talk some shit. So let's get started in Greenland. This story caught my eye. This is out of the truly, well, I guess a few years ago I would have called this news of the strange. Now it's just news of climate 2.0. In the last 10 years, on the Greenland Ice Shelf, the very top of the planet pretty much, in the last 10 years, the recorded temperature has only been above freezing 3 different times. One of those was the day before yesterday where it rained for several hours, the report said. Considerable ice loss on the southern coast of that ice sheet, considerable ice loss at the peak of that ice sheet, and Greenland is melting. Z, if there's any question that we're entering a new wave of what climate looks like, I mean, I can't even call it climate shift anymore, it seems.
No, I mean, as the phrase goes, those who have eyes, let them see, and those who have ears, let them hear. It's very obvious as we look around and look at the different changes. I mean, we've talked about the fire a couple of times, and you know, now hurricane season is coming, and we've already seen a couple. You got earthquakes coming back up. I mean, they've always been here, but they seem to be rising. They had something over in Europe, and
prayers for Haiti.
Yes,
Haiti.
I mean, we send our prayers and blessings to Haiti. I mean, you know, last count I heard was over a couple thousand people dead, and I don't even know if they've gotten onto some of the remote areas to count. I mean, we have to begin to take these things seriously. I'll put a challenge to everyone real quick. Wherever you live, wherever you are, check the weather patterns just in your own mind of where it was when you were a kid and where you are now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We'll leave it at
that. No question about it. So, you know, folks, we recognize there is always a spiritual solution for every human problem. And part of that spiritual solution is being able to recognize that there are no problems. There really are no problems.
Yes.
we perceive them to be problems. So in this, what we're talking about right here really looks like, if you dig into some of the information that's out there, it really looks like the planet, the poles are flipping, are switching.
Yeah.
And we don't have record of it, but there's massive amounts of speculation that this wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, and there is some evidence to show that the magnetic poles has switched.
Right. Exactly. That the magnetic poles are in the process of switching, and that's going to cause a difference in our climate. So we were joking before the show. I think I'm just going to start calling it Climate 2.0.
Yeah.
Because it's the second major iteration of the climate in my lifetime.
And you know, like a good way to gauge that whole thing, you know, for anyone out there who still hikes with the map, a real map, right? Or someone who's into orienteering, when you on that map, they always give you a declination of what to go. Once you get a bearing, they give you a declination to take off because of the magnetic pole is shifting. And that happens every so often that you get a new declination to be your designated point when your compass, because it's changing.
Right. Exactly. So let's embrace this. Like, seriously, folks, let's embrace this. Right. Yeah. I'm not going to go buy any beachfront property in the next decade. Well, maybe I will in Colorado or Utah or somewhere like that. But the point is, let's stay focused on what we can do and what we can do to support our climate and our planet. Make sure you're recycling, whatever it may be, but let's be part of the solution rather than part of the problem.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings us to our second story today. The second thing we want to look at today. I was, you guys know me, I'm always on the internet. I found a political cartoon that was just like way too funny. And unfortunately, you know how the ones that are the funniest are because they just hit too close to home. Here it is. 4 horsemen of the apocalypse riding down the road, and somebody joins them. Who are you? Misinformation. I think I dated her once. But I think a lot of people are dating her right now.
Yeah. And you know, I saw a program there's a program, I think it's on the History Channel, called America's Book of Secrets or something to that effect. And they were talking about mind control and misinformation. Yeah. And they went as far back as the Manchurian Candidate. I don't know if any of you seen or read the book or seen the movie. And you know, there was even some speculation that Sirhan, who killed Robert Kennedy, was under this Manchurian Candidate kind of mind control.
MK Ultra.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. And so when we begin to look at how misinformation or programming information, however you want to look at it, it's real. And so as Robert, you were saying earlier, we have to become more critical and more fastidious, if you will, about what we ingest, be it food, ideas, the lot.
Yeah.
Because we know that from a capitalist perspective, capitalism in its purest form is trying to make money at any cost. That includes you and me.
Yeah. Yes, unfortunately. So really, folks, you know, what we wanted to land on today is this misinformation piece. It's everywhere. It's pervasive in our culture. And I believe it's time we start doing something about it, that we start changing. And I'll tell you, the first red flag I see, according to my research, like I see that. If you type that, if you put that in a comment or a post of some sort, according to my research, I think that's bunk. I don't think any individual has the capability to do true research, even on the internet. It's unfortunate, but true research isn't usually published first on YouTube. True research is published in research material in journals and scientific journals and such. And it seems like there are so many stories out now that are just filled with what people think,
right?
Not necessarily what is,
right? And part of the challenge, especially on the internet or on these digital devices, right? You do a search on anything. I searched some Skechers shoes the other day. I got Skechers goddamn advertisement everywhere. Phone. It's like, so that to say, once you let the internet know that you are looking at a certain type of information or looking for a certain thing, it begins to feed you information on that topic based on the history it has already gathered about you to make you buy it, send you deeper down the rabbit hole on that type of information or whatever. So, in this program on this misinformation mind stuff, right? They're talking about bots and robots.
Yes.
And I saw a news program the other day on, I don't know, CBS, NBC. They had robots doing backflips off a step. They did about 3 of them in a row. And I'm like, wow. And someone made the statement, if we give them the ability through AI, we're going to have a different way of controlling people and getting information out. And that seems a little off key, but it is not when you get misinformation about what they're using them for, how they're being developed, why they're being developed. You have to do your research.
Yep. It's crazy because these bots, they really are starting to control a lot of things, right? Try it, folks. Go in, pick a name, pick a celebrity or anybody you want. Go in there and type into Google, is so-and-so an alien? ? All right. And you'll see some results and stuff. But the really fun part is to watch what starts to show up in your advertisements, in your non-advertisements. A lot of information is being pushed at us. People are paying to put this stuff in front of us with really no mechanism to determine whether it's, quote, true or not. Now, in the comments, Linda mentions, right, she's learned to rely on her intuition. And that's what this philosophy teaches, to rely on our intuition, to know that there is a power within us that is guiding, directing, that we can utilize that. I'd like to give an example. A couple of weeks ago, I was out with a buddy. We were out in the mountains and we'd played a little Frisbee golf and had some fun. And we were on our way back and he's like, hey, I want to get a bite to eat. Do you mind if we stop at this Italian place? I said, no, not at all. Yeah, I don't mind. And I had a mask in my pocket in case it was busy or whatever. And we walked in the door. And the minute I walked through the threshold of that building, every single cell in my body said no. Now, my friend didn't quite understand it. He was hungry,
right?
Right? He couldn't understand it. He goes, well, we'll sit out on the deck. I'm like, you can sit out on the deck. I'll wait in the car. No, I don't know what it was. Still don't know what it was. Honestly, don't really care what it was. Other than I was very specifically informed. No, don't eat here. Don't do this. Nothing against the restaurant. I'm not going to mention their name. I'm not going to go give them a bad Yelp review. Oh, the energy here was terrible. Don't go. Right? No. I'm learning to listen to that higher wisdom that points me in the right direction to say, hey, I don't really know enough about this topic to try to speak as an expert.
And just real quickly on that, if some of you have seen in the last month or so, they've released some information from the government, the Pentagon, on UFOs. And it only got out because somebody leaked some real footage from a military aircraft that was called to monitor this, to kind of give you an inkling that it's not made up. They don't know what it was, but once they leaked the pictures, they had to give up some more information because the Freedom of Information Act was open to do it. And if you go to, I think they have a little 4-part special on Showtime or something.
And Netflix has got a new, like, everybody rushed to production in this. So you're going to see a flurry of new information and shows and programs and all kinds of stuff on this. But yeah, that's a good one too, Z, right?
Yeah, because they're making the point. First, they start out on the ones I watched. They start out about, the credibility of it and how long it's been going on, and then they flip to the misinformation about what the government has tried to do to disavow that information, if you will. Right. And it had a couple of for those of you who are in the in some of the spiritual physics stuff, you may have heard of the guy Hal Puthoff. He's the guy. Lynn McTaggart talks about him in her book, The Field, and he came up with some research on the 0 point field. He's involved with some of this by funding some of it. And it's some fascinating stuff if you wanna check it out. But you have to be careful because there's some misinformation in there, I'm sure.
And, folks, as we're chatting, I just dropped a link in the show notes for you. There's a great movie out there that digs into some of these topics, especially as far as mind control and such in the military. The movie's name is called Men Who Stare at Goats. I've left George Clooney's in it. That doesn't say enough. I could watch this thing every weekend. It is funny. It's a dark comedy, but it's hilarious. But it really does speak to these topics that here's my perspective. Somewhere, America the Great, we decided we needed to put our form of democracy in every corner of this planet, on every map, in every country. And it feels like, we're going to die trying. So the American military and American exceptionalism, if you will, American, what do we want to call it? Imperialism, colonialism. We've got a long, long history. Now, we're not the only ones. So here's another one I saw this week that I do like and I don't like. All right, number one, Afghanistan. Yep, the British tried to control and couldn't. The Soviets tried to control and couldn't. We tried to control for 20 years and couldn't. I don't like the fact that the artist portrays the Afghani people as a dead people, as a worthless piece, as less than human.
Yeah.
The Afghani people have lived through 50 years of war and occupation. 50 years of other people telling them how to live and what to believe and what to do. And they've spent 50 years saying, no, we're trying to. Now, again, we think it's our job to bring democracy. There are a lot of people in Afghanistan that wanted to see democracy, but it would also appear there are an equal number that didn't. And there's a lot of hand-wringing going on right now. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of fear-mongering that this marks the end of the world. That Sharia law is going to encompass the planet, and a wave of radical Muslims are going to wash over the United States and everywhere else because Afghani people are getting to live their life according to what we'll see, right? It's going to take some time. But Zia, the question I'd love for you to help our audience understand here is, help us understand this thing of Sharia law and what's different between maybe a traditional or the original, right? The good in the Sharia versus how the Taliban and other groups radicalized that philosophy.
Yeah, and it's it's a story or a subject that, as common people, we need to understand when we hear it, right? So basically, Sharia law, to my knowledge and understanding, is law based on the Quran, right? And there are the rules and the precepts of how you should live your life. No different from the laws that have been created from the Christian perspective, which is somewhat of what the democracy is, probably that mixed in with the Jewish code of law. And quiet as it kept, the Jewish code of law and the Islamic code of law are very close in terms of, what you eat and how you dress and those kinds of things. And but the problem becomes there are some there's some interesting places and topics about women and dress and how you deal with war and those types of things that can be taken to an extreme, right, and taken out of context of when these laws were given. All right, I mean, we looking, Prophet Muhammad was 500 years after Christ. I mean, so we're talking a long time ago, right? 1,500 years ago. And so there are people, and we know that there are fanatics in every ideology, philosophy, religion. Some of them just, some of them more than others. And so, again, here's a subject that you need to go and read and do some investigation for yourself. Do not just take what someone said. Don't even take what I say, because it is a very detailed perspective of how one should live their life. And as quiet as it kept, part of the whole democratic thing of having a council of people who help and resolve problems comes from an Islamic perspective of a Majlis Shura, which is a circle of leaders who give their input on an answer before coming up with a decision. So it's been abused, and so we know that, and so now the information has to open up the door for people to go and study. I mean, as we said in the beginning, we got to get away from the misinformation. We got to do our own research from multiple sources, from multiple places, to let the intuition guide us on who and what we should do.
Yeah, and personal experience, right? Make a friend with make a friend with a Muslim week. Let's make it that, right? Like, and sorry, that sounds rather condescending. I apologize, folks. Right? That's not, but somewhere along the line, and what I love what you're saying, Z, is right. This is this community's attempt to live a life according to the precepts of a religious philosophy, of a holy book, right, the Quran. Now, I don't know any holy book that doesn't have some things in it that contemporary people wouldn't want to believe or don't believe or think is antiquated. I don't know if this is true. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe somebody shared with me once a section of the Quran that speaks to the fact that it is a Muslim's requirement or responsibility to infiltrate the Gentile organizations and attack from within and then destroy from within, right? So if that were true, that means that this man here on the screen with me has been lying to me and for 20 plus years, almost 20 years, that he's been, infiltrating our organ with the intent to destroy. If that were true, I'm pretty sure my intuition would have told me to stay away from this guy a long time ago. Yeah. So through my point is my personal experience has led me to a belief that that's not true. There is nothing that says the Muslims are out to get us, are out. Sure, the book may say that it is to the benefit of everyone to come to this philosophy, but we don't let the radical Christians, well, maybe we did for a little while there, but generally we don't let the radical Christians run our country. If there are radical factions within the Taliban, I have to trust that the people of Afghanistan have the wisdom, the knowledge, and the intuition to know who to lead and to know who to put up as leaders, to know who to follow, to know who to trust.
And when you look at the history of Afghanistan, that image you showed, you know, for those of us and you, if you will, who are old enough to remember that in the mid-70s, Afghanistan was in a brutal war with Russia.
Yeah.
In the mountainous area of Afghanistan. And the United States provided resources, training, money to prevent that from happening. And the Russians backed out, right? And then with the money and stuff that they had, they became more autonomous, and they started doing some, you know, what people do when they get money, and some have it and some don't, right? Some criminal elements started to happen, right?
Yep.
Let's just be, you know, be real about it. And so now you had a people, you know, once you taste power in that kind of a way, you don't want to give it up. So you begin to do everything you can to keep it. And so they start subjugating these crazy ideas and brutal force on the people, on women, on children, which is just ludicrous. And so now we're at this point now where we prop them up and they've gained some status, and now, you know, they say they've changed, the Taliban, but now we really, really have to watch and wait and see. First, we got to figure out how we're going to get all the way out of here. I mean, that's going to be a little sticky wicket for a while, and then we judge them by what they do, and then if it requires some actions of whatever sort that are deemed necessary, then we have to reevaluate that again.
Yep. It's yes, right. The Russians came in. We thought the Russians were going to invade, you know, take over the world. So we went and fought the Russians through the Afghanis. The Russians leave people, equipment, information, wisdom, They turn around, pick that up, and say, okay, now Americans, you get out. And we say, no, we don't want to get out. They say, well, tough shit, it's our country. And they start using the Russian weapons against us. Now, we just left a whole lot of information, wisdom, and equipment over there as well. I am sure we're not bringing home every scrap of metal that we've taken over there in the last 20 some odd years. And they're going to pick that up, and they're going to use it on the next group that comes in and says, we're going to take you over. Could be the Chinese. Who knows? I don't want to call Afghanistan a global battleground, because that's what it's been for 50 years.
Yeah.
So again, I think our work here is we're not here to pray so the Afghani people do the right thing. We're not here to pray that the Afghani people are suddenly lifted up and awakened to the truth of democracy. In the comments, Linda commented that, you know, many Christians feel driven to convert everyone to their belief. Same thing here, folks. The difference is we're trying to convert everybody to our belief in either democracy or some form of social construct that just isn't in place there. So I'm with Z. The Taliban has said, we will not persecute anyone that worked as a translator or in any way. We will continue to give women the rights they have earned. They have said they will not take those back. If they lie, if they don't live up to those, then there's a need for people to hold them accountable to that. I still don't know that it means a full-scale invasion, but we hold people, right? We're about personal and organizational responsibility at that point.
And last thing, you know, you go back, you look at Vietnam, because they're making all these comparisons to Vietnam and the fall of Saigon.
Yeah.
Right now, Vietnam is prospering, right? I mean, it's a vacation destination. They have a budding industry. They have begun to open up. They've become a destination now for call centers for technology. Right. So we came out, they worked out whatever they needed to work out internally. They probably got some support, you know, from different people as it moved up. But they were able to work it out. Now we can hope that becomes the similar situation in Afghanistan. Might be a little different because we got some different motivators there, but let's hope and do what we can, if nothing else, to stop spreading misinformation about any of it. The people, the religion, the government, we cannot shyly sit back and gossip about this stuff, if you will, and have conversation about it, and not try to be factual and point people in the right way when they are the right direction, whether when they have information that seems a little questionable. You should read this as a different approach or a different opinion to get a more balanced view.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Z, you just said something that wants me to go off on a whole nother 20-minute tangent, but we can't. So let's stop spreading the information, folks. And I'll just tell you what that 20-minute tangent is in a couple of sentences. Let's stop spreading misinformation around COVID, personal health, and personal choice when it comes to what we do in this pandemic. This pandemic is not over. We're going back to school. And anybody that wants to litigate anything that impedes anybody's desire to stay healthy, I believe is moving down a wrong path. So I'm going to say it. Wash your hands, wear your mask, and keep your distance. And maybe, just maybe, we can get out of this before this time next year.
And if you haven't considered a vaccine and don't have one already, please do.
Please consider. All right, we're running over, folks. We're going to get out of here. This is Ministers Talking Shit. We're here every Friday. We don't pretend to have all the answers, but we do believe that by exploring those answers, those questions, we can come upon a divine solution and come to what the divine ideal may be. So we want to thank you for being with us. We hope you'll be back with us again and again, and we hope you'll share us with your friends. Until next week, peace.
Peace.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.